How do you think about the distortion in the field of fucks given that occurs when money is monopolized and printed or counterfeited? So if there's, I'm referring here specifically to the central bank, obviously. If there's one organization that can print money or produce it without effort, as you said, how does that create distortions in this field of fucks given in your view?
They're doing something that nobody cares about. You know, nobody wakes up in the morning. You don't wake up in the morning. I don't wake up in the morning and say, gosh, I wish somebody would spend 30 seconds writing a larger number in an imaginary column. And that is worth $5 trillion to me. It's not. But the problem is it's a hack in the system, because if we have something else that's worth $5 trillion, like a lot of this sort of wonderful Florida real estate that I drove to come visit you, that's also worth $5 trillion. We care a lot about that.
Because people actually give a fuck about living on the land, eating, having shelter.
Living around, you know, nice trees and near water and being able to go out sailing. And so what we have is a counterfeit fuck. We have a fake expression of caring that nobody actually cares about. So people are doing things that nobody wants, and they've found a way to infect the system to make it appear as if people care a great deal. And you know, counterfeiting was like this, and the only distinction between counterfeiting and currency manipulation is whether you are the government and you can give yourself a permission slip to do it. But anytime you have a system for measuring value, anytime you have a system that motivates people to do things that you care about, there's going to be incentives to game that system. And so a society is healthy when it's harder to game the system than it is to participate in the system, and sick when it's easier to game the system than participate in that.
That's well said.
And I think the you know, the driving motivation behind Bitcoin in particular, cryptocurrency in general, and this idea that we need a new wave of money is that we want to live in a society where it's easier to create than to cheat and steal, because we would rather be surrounded by creators than thieves.
Absolutely. That's wonderfully said. And you want to then create a spectrum of rewards and punishments that reward productive activity and punish anti-productive or non-productive activity, right? So if someone steals from you, obviously they didn't create anything. They stole something that you produced. We want legal penalties in place to disincentivize that activity. But we want, like the profit motive, for instance, to motivate producers to solve problems that people want solved. And so that is if I hear you correctly, that's the game you're describing, right? That we were creating this the economy, I guess, to use the broad term. It is a game, and we're wrestling with how to properly instantiate the rules such that we operate productively and not self-destructively, I guess, if in the case of stealing and killing and all
destructively toward acting in ways that destroy value.
Yes.
In order to get some of the value for ourselves.
Right. So in game theory terms, to tilt it further towards a positive sum game and further away from a zero sum game. Right.
Yeah. Well, this was actually something I played with in the the fictional universe of Theft of Fire and the Orbital Space series is that one of the trends I see is the way to eliminate warfare, and the way that warfare is eliminated is a gradual move away from warfare being efficient. So if you think about, and this will become relevant in a moment, if you think about what people fight over, what has been the valuable resource has changed over time. I mean, under primitive conditions, it was land, and it was physical resources. And while things like land remain valuable, we now have a condition where, like, okay, technology and technological know-how are becoming a greater and greater source of value.
Sure.
So you have you can hope for and try to work for a world where the things that have the most value are the things that it is not necessarily very efficient to steal. Like if we start becoming a multiplanetary species and we colonize the solar system, then all of a sudden, here's these asteroids that are worth $60 quadrillion on today's mineral market. And of course, what happens is the bottom falls out of the value of some of these material resources. So it makes less and less sense to fight over them. So certainly you can set up rules where you punish people who steal. And that's a thing that we want to do. But I think as we've looked at the behavior of governments, we've also seen that those who we put in power to punish stealing, the thieves are incentivized to take over that structure. And I would say that's what we have going on with the United States federal government now. We have a kleptocracy, where a government run for the purpose of stealing. But one of the things that technological progress can do for us is that it can move the greatest stores of value to things that are harder and harder to steal. Designs, technological ideas, and that technology can make the things that are easier to steal, material resources, land, more and more plentiful. So it becomes,
them.
If you can colonize all of Mars, then maybe land is less valuable. If you can mine all these asteroids, gold is less valuable. The store of value becomes more and more who has the best technological ideas, who has the designs, who has the know-how, who has the expert population that can design things. You can't steal any of that. So there is some hope here simply in technological trends. But obviously we want to try to do everything we can voluntarily in our own lives to try to reward creators and either punish thieves or simply make theft more trouble than it's worth.
Right. So yeah, this is an economics. I guess the game boils down to the economics of stealing versus producing in a way, right? Like everyone wants more of whatever the thing is. Obviously there's a gradient, a value gradient on all this, the moreness. However, to produce something requires work. To steal something also requires work in a way, depending, right? Depending how safeguarded it is. The threat of retaliation.
That's what I'm saying is you want to make the stealing take more work than the producing.
Yes, exactly. And this, I guess the the central pillar to this game dynamic is this institution of private property, which we talk about a lot on this show, right? The idea that each person that expends the energy to create something of value has the right and the responsibility, the right to enjoy it and the responsibility to take care of it if they wish to continue to enjoy it.
Yeah, they have the right to control it.
To control it, exactly. And when that social institution becomes violated, and I think what you said about the U.S. government's a great example, right? It's become a kleptocracy. Well, what are they doing? They're violating people's private property rights through taxation, through inflation, through lockdowns even, right? Through other forms of fiat regulation where they say, do this or else, you will suffer the consequences. All of these are encroachments on individuals' control over their assets and thus their lives. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.